I have, and maybe a fun one to end on. The libertarians, just so people don't think that, and famously, Dr. Mary Ruwart got in trouble at one of the prayer conventions. She was running for president, the presidential nomination for the party, by someone asking if what her opinion about age of consent was, and she essentially said that a child could give consent to sexual activity, and it basically opened the door for child molesters to make a claim that, oh, the kid consented, and that actually put her on the opposite, on the wrong side of the voters and the delegates at the convention, and that hurt her quite a bit, And so, even within the libertarian, and even among the most radical libertarians, there's still a very strong line saying that libertarian principles apply to adults and not to children. Where children can't be expected to make adult decisions. And I think you and I are in agreement on that.
We are in agreement there, although our line of demarcation for children is age 18. As we know, the drinking age can vary from 21 down to 18, and then you've also got your driver's license issue, whereby at age 15 you can get your learner's permit and go out and have basically a contractual agreement not to go around hitting people with your car.
Yeah.
So we do have some exceptions to the rule.
Right, and the age of 16 seems to be, there's a lot of adult level kind of responsibilities start kicking in, like driving and even sexual activity between 16 if you're a 17-year-old and you have sex with a 16-year-old, you're not going to go to jail, I don't think now in any state, if you're a 17-year-old. But if you're a 22-year-old, then it starts to get, well, yeah, you could be, and then it starts to get fuzzy at that point, and then, of course, on up from there. Depends on the age, 16 seems to be one of those where if consent could be proven, then they kind of give it away. Anything lower than 16, in most states, I think, are very strong against consent being a factor there. Now, there was a case here.
It doesn't stop them from trying children as adults in certain cases. We know that if you're a 15-year-old gangbanger and you shoot somebody, you're likely to have the DA come after you to try you as an adult.
Yeah, and even younger I've seen, yeah, where they've tried to do it for 12 and 13-year-olds. There was a news item the other day too about I'll get back to this story in a minute because it's a funny one to end on. But this news story was about being identified as a sex offender. In some states, they will identify 10, 12, and even 10-year-olds as being sex offenders if they do certain things. And typically at that age, they really don't know what they're doing. They just attack, like kids are physical. They attack each other for a lot of reasons, not really sexual at that age, but maybe simulating something they saw. But that was like the issue the other day when I was listening on, I think on the radio, was like, is a 10-year-old really, could a 10-year-old possibly be a sex offender? It depends on the crime, I guess. If they committed a brutal, violent crime of some kind, then they're an offender of some kind, and obviously they need to be, isolated for a time and figure out what's the matter with them. But if it's not violent, if they're just assaulting, some kind of a, groping or whatever it might be, to be classified as a sex offender, which means you have to be identified, your address and tracked, and obviously they need to soften up, as the age gets younger. I don't know if you saw that. Yeah, but so some states have gone overboard on that rule a little bit, I think. But anyway, what was funny about this story was this guy was found, and I think it's in Florida. I can't figure out which city it was in, but I think the investigators tracked his IP address and were eventually able to figure out who he was, and found his address and barged into his house and arrested him. And he found impounded his computer and found some 1,000 child pornography images on his computer. And his defense was, my cat climbed up and was clicking on the keys on the keyboard. I found that kind of immediately I thought about that old philosophical question that if 1 million monkeys were in a room with each on a typewriter and was just randomly hitting keys, and if enough time went by, eventually one of them would type out the exact key sequence of the novel War and Peace. So maybe that
would take billions of monkeys and billions of years.
I think so. To get the correct sequence.
Get you over the hurdle of beyond a reasonable doubt.
Yes, that's what he's trying to argue. Apparently, he probably didn't do too well in math, because the number of keystrokes you'd have to make, consecutively, randomly, to get 1,000 kitty porn pictures on your computer has to be pretty high. And even if it was only say 20 keystrokes,
yeah,
I don't know how, what are the chances the cat's going to go up and hit those 20 keystrokes in a row in the right order? Probably not very good. I love it when people try to invoke mathematics and philosophy, under duress, and it just doesn't hold any water at all. Sorry, the libertarian principles are not going to protect that guy, I don't think.
That's just not going to fly.
No, and it's that kind of demand. But I guess seriously, for kiddie porn in general, obviously there's a demand for it. Obviously there is a mutation in the human condition that makes people have desire for these children, who are not developed yet, and that's an aberration, in my opinion, because it creates abuse, and it would. I can't think of a scenario. I mean, there used to be cultures that said, you couldn't. Let's see, if a woman was to have sex before she was married, then she was